A sweet summer morning, cool breezes and a clear sky. This day will not come again. The young bulls lie under a tree in the corner of their field. Quiet morning, blue hills. Daylilies nod in the wind. This day will not come again.
I'm revisiting my childhood a little bit. I was reared UU, I think, as a lot of you know, so I'm not a come-outer of another faith. And For the Beauty of the Earth was one of the early hymns that I sang in church school. And one of the things we did in church school when I was a child was we gathered in fourth grade. Our curriculum was called Miracles Abound. It was fantastic. Photosynthesis, iron filings, magic, all of this magic that's in the natural world, the wonders that just are around us all the time. And at one point, and we did this in a little pageanty thing for our parents, we all became planets or the sun and moon. And we did the little rotation thing, around the sun, and I'm whatever planet I am, and all the other children are planets. And a few weeks ago, my spiritual guide sent me the video that you're about to see, and it blew me away. I carried a grown-up version of the solar system in my head, but I never imagined what this will show. There are some flaws in this. He uses the word revolve around the sun, and they don't revolve. They rotate around the sun. They revolve, but they rotate around the sun. But anyway, we can share a little after the video, but I had to share it with you this morning. what you see is not what you get. It just changed everything, you know? I mean, it changed everything. So now I have an image of where I am at 70,000 miles an hour, rocketing through space in this beautiful spiral dance. So I had to share it. And you can find it and share it with your children, your grandchildren. I think it changes the whole relationship to not only the solar system and the other planets, but to the cosmos and to each other. What a dance. My reading this morning is from a book called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, who is a Canadian physician who has done a great deal of work with addictions and other psychological issues, particularly trauma-related. We in the West are playing with a less than full sensory deck. Our senses have been stripped of more subtle ones that spiritual adepts and indigenous cultures have always cultivated. We live in a world that is split, the Buddhist meditation teacher Jack Kornfield told me. And so our psyche is split. We make money by going to work, and we take care of our bodies in the gym, and we maybe take care of our psyche a little bit in therapy, and we do the arts when we go to a concert, and we do the sacred by going to church or synagogue or mosque or something like that. They're all in compartments, as if the sacred was somehow separate from the work that we do or the music that we make, end quote. One of the earliest and for many most challenging steps in programs like Alcoholics Anonymous is to entrust one's life to the care of a higher power, whatever one understands that term to mean. Whether we know it or not, we all seek our higher power. The longing manifests in many ways: our desire to belong, our drive to know our purpose in life, the urge to escape the limitations of our conditioned, self-centered personalities, our taste for transcendent experiences. Unfortunately, in our culture, we are taught to seek fulfillment by filling ourselves with evanescent externals. It cannot be done, for what we are missing within cannot be replaced from without. The emptiness dogging us emanates from the places where we have lost contact with our deepest selves. A.H. Almas calls these broken connections holes. Allowing ourselves to tolerate the holes and go through them on the other side is more difficult now because everything in society is against this. Society is against essence. Everybody around you, wherever you go, is trying to fill holes, and people feel very threatened if you don't try to fill yours the same way. Amos goes on, I don't see society as an enemy. It's more like society is asleep. It just doesn't know. Some knowledge of it may arise through religion, where there is at least an awareness that there is more to us than the usual physical thing. The spiritual drive wakes up in a human being at some point. It's mysterious when it wakes up. Sometimes it wakes up by itself. Sometimes it's triggered by something happening outside, by listening to somebody or reading a book. When the spiritual drive or curiosity wakes up, that's when one yearns to find out more about what a human being is beyond the limitations society normally understands, recognizes, and tries to enforce. Writer George Saunders, who writes on the American psyche, says, "Stay open forever, so open it hurts, and then open up some more until the day you die. World without end. Amen." I gaze out my study window into the golden light. The oak leaf hydrangea blooms, great ivory cones tinged pink. Dozens of bees of every kind buzz and bumble into the pollen-laden depths of the blossoms. We too are laden with the sultry summer haze of heat, finding refreshment in cool waters or deep shade. The humid pall invites laze and reflection. We see the days grow shorter and we wonder, given all this luxuriant green and the precarious survival of the honeybees, and with all the heartbreak surrounding us, how then shall we live? Collective heartbreak, including the weekly count of mass shootings we choose to notice because we become psychically numbed. Yes, more and more I am hearing from my clients in psychotherapy and those who seek me for spiritual guidance that they are suffering great grief, sadness, and fear. Our hearts hurt. And what does this have to do with Earth's home, soul home? Because this has to do with how we care for each other, all species, and our planet. Oh, I know we have Earth Day, one day a year, in which we honor and remember our stewardship, our intimate caretaking relationship to our planet, and this isn't it. We must remember more than one day that we do not spend time in nature. We are intrinsically, eternally of nature, cannot be separated from it to observe it. Our witness must be holistic, holographic. We are it. I am that lush hydrangea. I am the bumblebee wallowing in the petals. I am the grass. Jesus in the Gospel of Mary, that would be Mary Magdalene, a gospel that of course did not make it into the New Testament canon. That's a whole nother sermon. Jesus says, every nature, every modeled form, every creature exists in and with each other. Words of Jesus, yes. Every nature, every modeled form, every creature exists in and with each other. We are our planet, and we are what we do to her. For what we do to her, we do to ourselves, be it poison or protect. The UN recently issued new statements of alarm about the state of our planet, both in terms of fossil fuel emissions and the warnings about rising sea levels as polar ice is melting at a faster rate than formerly believed. It is expected there will be many millions of climate refugees by the year 2050, a mere generation away. I saw a cartoon recently. A little girl on the beach with her father. She picks up a whelk shell and she says, "Daddy, hold this to your ear. You can hear the earth crying for mercy." There is no way out. In the 1960s, Walt Kelly spoke these prophetic words from the mouth of his comic strip character, Pogo. "We have met the enemy, and he is us." Indeed, and we laughed. And now it is no laughing matter. The Elon Musks and Jeff Bezoses of the world may look toward establishing a human colony on the planet Mars, the better to escape the horrific mess men like them have created on planet Earth. What hubris! What folly! Let's take the worst of patriarchy and greed and egomania to a whole other innocent planet in our solar system. What if instead they put their immense monetary resources to funding the countless creative ways we already know will bring healing to this blue-green paradise we call Earth? I am not male bashing when I say that patriarchy and greed are at the root of our planetary crises. War, famine, climate changes, poverty, all interrelated, all grounded in a patriarchal culture that has proven it does not work for the vast majority of people and other beings on our precious planet. And as a psychotherapist, I am not certain that it is not men who have been more emotionally, mentally, and spiritually damaged by patriarchy than women. They just haven't gotten as angry about its oppression. I am a UU spiritual guide and director, companioning those who seek a deeper relationship with themselves in relationship to all that is. To do this work professionally and to be a member of the UU Spiritual Directors Network and the UU Society of Community Ministers requires that I have completed what is essentially a master's level program, 2 years of spiritual formation. I have been doing this work for 20 years. I followed, like any true minister, a call from a source mysterious and magnificent, the same source that birthed the cosmos. Jesus' statement, "Every nature, every modeled form, every creature exists in and with each other," is a mystical statement. Jesus was a mystic, and he held a shamanic worldview. My ministry and guidance provides space for the great quest of human life and the deepest companioning in which to explore doubts and dreams, visions and values, meanings and musings in the spiritual realm, a realm all humans inhabit, whether they use that language or not. The realm of the inexplicable, the incomprehensible, the imaginal. Spiritual guidance helps a person access the deepest feelings and impulses sourced in human experience in relationship to the earth, to cosmos, the mystery, to God, and then to live and move and have their being with awareness of that relationship and the courage to recognize those often buried and denied feelings such as heartbreak. David Steindl-Rast, a Catholic monk with Buddhist leanings, says that for him another name for God is surprise. Father Richard Rohr, a renowned Franciscan priest, says his religion is aweism. Who among us cannot relate to experiences of surprise and awe? If we can be in and with every nature, every form, every creature in states of surprise and awe, we cannot, if we are in that spiritual attunement, do harm. Whatever we want to call the mysterious energetic consciousness that evolved so returning migrating birds coming from South America arrive in perfect timing with hatchings of their exact food needs in Ohio habitat, surely we can join with a Catholic priest in aweism. The red knot, a small shorebird with the longest migration from the southern tip of South America to the Arctic, will likely go extinct because humans are harvesting the eggs of the horseshoe crabs for medicines that could easily be synthetically produced, and the red knot feeds on those exclusively in their migration. We must end our parasitic relationship to our planet paradise. We must consider, as traditional shamanic cultures have for thousands of years, the effects of our actions on the interconnected web of which we are a part. In the 1970s, during the awakening of liberation movements, the phrase taken from Native American cultures, 7 generations, came into popular use. And now, 1 generation into the future, many millions of climate refugees. And who knows what environmental crises may occur within that 1 generation that we will be not only called to face, but will have been responsible for causing. Over and over, I hear elders say, "I'm glad I'm old. I won't have to live through what is surely coming." I suppose in other times of great disaster, elders have expressed those sentiments, but never before have the crises consolidated so as to be absolutely existential for large masses of humans and for most of the species on the planet. The 6th extinction. And what does it say about those elders? How do we relate to our children and grandchildren who will be living through whatever disasters await? Who will be responsible for teaching, governing, nursing, ministering through those years? We who live in American society and beyond are all experiencing a subtle, pervasive, systemic cultural trauma that is in large part going unrecognized. We live under massive cultural stress, and we are using all the best of human defenses to ignore the trauma, for which there are many signs. Autoimmune diseases are rising at an alarming rate, as are mental health disorders, anxiety and depression among them. Addictions, cancers, infertility, gastrointestinal diseases, teen suicides, and all related to feelings avoided, denied, and repressed about what is happening to the beautiful, endangered world we all share, and the endangering and toxic society we have created. Children as young as toddlers are being medicated with pharmaceuticals previously used only on adults. We are willing to give our children, whose behavior is often more inconvenient than truly pathological, potent antipsychotic medicines rather than give them the space and the permission to be free to physically and emotionally express. These are children who are more aware than we know of the dangers society is presenting them. And we have no idea of the long-term effects of such medicines on the undeveloped brain. We are willing to make of our children guinea pigs. Canadian physician and expert on the effects of stress, including addictions, writes this in his impressive new book, The Myth of Normal. The inimitable Greta Thunberg put it with devastating simplicity at a youth summit in Milan in September 2021. Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. This is all we hear from our so-called leaders. Words sound great, but so far have not led to action. Our hopes and ambitions drown in their empty promises, end quote. Mate goes on. Unfettered greed, inauthenticity, and disconnection have driven us to such a dark place that it falls to young people to wake us up to what this toxic culture has perpetrated and ignored for so long, end quote. Greta Thunberg says this while on American TV. There are countless ads for pharmaceuticals to treat diseases and disorders I mentioned above, as well as for cosmetics and procedures like Botox. Botulinum toxin, folks. The same toxin that causes bubonic plague, and women and men are having it injected at great expense into their faces to preserve the illusion of youth. And a side effect? The human face has thousands of minuscule nerves affecting the muscles that help others read our most subtle expressions of love, tenderness, anger, disapproval, hurt, shame, and joy. And Botox deadens all those nerves that are absolutely essential to nonverbal communication, especially for infants and children. If a mother's face cannot be read by her baby, the baby suffers a profound disconnect in the essential developmental process of mirroring. The infant or child's ability to thrive is threatened because a mother is terrified of wrinkles. She has been socialized to please men, to look beautiful and youthful for men. Her face becomes frozen into a mask. You can see this all over the television. I watch newscasters that I watched who once had, wrinkles that we have, who are now like plastic. I would submit these women are really terrified of their humanity, afraid to have their life show on their faces. It is a measure of how skewed our values and priorities are as a society as a whole, how far we have come from tending our souls. Earth home, soul home. The society that continues to appease the fossil fuel industry, to undermine the essential work of teachers to teach true history, however uncomfortable for white students to learn, to ban books on parental or political whims that challenges science in the face of a catastrophic pandemic, that implores citizens to spend many billions of dollars on cosmetic surgeries to preserve the illusion of youth, is not only a sick society, it is toxic to other cultures and societies and to our planet. It is a society that has lost its soul. Soul home. Our souls are intrinsically woven into the warp and woof of the mysterious beauty of this planet, this solar system, this shimmering galaxy we call the Milky Way, this entire cosmos. We exist in and with one another. That is spiritual existence. Jesus often ended his teachings with the cautionary ultimatum, "Let those who have ears to hear, hear." I am hopeful that we are opening our ears, our eyes, our hearts. Jesus was woke. He urged others to awaken. The kind of awakening he embodied was a spiritual soul awakening, and of course, that revolutionary teaching of it cost him his life. Stay open forever, so open it hurts, and then open up some more until the day you die. Life without end. Amen. In the shamanic worldview, that openness is a path to healing. Personal, spiritual, relational, societal healing. The tenets of shamanism are sciento-spiritual tenets, and I've just coined a new phrase, I know. 3 main tenets. 1, it's all energy. 2, all healing comes from within. 3, the world is as we dream it. Quantum physics affirms that everything is composed of energy. We live in a great electromagnetic field, a field, in fact, that could be another word like surprise, or awe, or imagination, or mystery for God. The field is a mystery, yes, one we humans have been unable to explain or to fully know, and we are individually photonic, energetic beings within it. We are light beings. In her magnificent book, The Field, Lynn McTaggart speaks of physicist Fritz Albert Popp and other scientists who describe, quote, consciousness as a global phenomenon that occurred everywhere in the body and not simply in our brains. Consciousness, at its most basic, was coherent light, end quote. McTaggart goes on to speak of, quote, David Bohm's vision of a world of unbroken wholeness. The universe was a vast dynamic cobweb of energy exchange with a basic substructure containing all possible versions of all possible forms of matter. Nature was not blind and mechanistic, but open-ended, intelligent, and purposeful, making use of a cohesive learning feedback process of information being fed back and forth between organisms and their environment, end quote. The spiritual concept of Indra's net was introduced in India about 1200 BCE in the Atharva Veda. Quantum physics is finally catching up to intuitive spiritual principles and knowing. It is this spiritual interbeing, to use Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh's word, interbeing, to which Jesus referred. Interbeing. The soul recognition, recognition, knowing again that may have a prayer of our salvation. Planet Earth will go on without human life in some form, even if we wreak nuclear destruction upon her. But if we know again interbeing, we shift our entire consciousness to one of a sacred interconnectedness. The second tenet of shamanism, all healing comes from within. We cannot possibly heal without awakening to the cellular responses in our bodies, to the crises within and surrounding us. Crises felt from coral reefs and forest mycelium to the farthest reaches of the universe, so now so awesomely brought to us by the new James Webb telescope. The enemy is still us, yes, but it doesn't have to be. The enemy always suffers from the horrors they inflict upon others. We must find and attune to the spiritual consciousness that is our coherent light, a light that energetically connects to all other consciousnesses, animal, vegetable, mineral, and etheric. Third tenet, the world is as we dream it. There are people whose minds and hearts we cannot reach or change in time. This is a painful truth for those of great compassion and optimism. Let those who have ears hear. This we can do. We can be responsible for our own spiritual awakening and attunement so that our own actions, our own thoughts, our own words, a firm right relationship, come from a deep awareness of our interbeing. We can hold the vivid vision of a world healing in response to our own inner healing, our interrelated consciousness. We can share the dream in community of like minds. We can grow and deepen spiritually, addressing the great questions of meaning and purpose with a personal spiritual director, and that's as in compass, not in authority, or a guide. We must, if we are to change the trajectory, change ourselves in ways that are deeply, purely, essentially spiritual. We must dream and envision and fix our spiritual and moral compass on the star of coherent light. The path of that trajectory leads outward from deep inner space to the farthest reaches of the cosmos. It is a path of following our heartbreak. This means it is a sometimes frightening path of feeling, of heart-mind, of coherent consciousness, a path that transcends the safety of rational mind, one that accepts all we cannot know, all the dark matter within self and cosmos, and leads to a sacred and mystical spacious communion in which all beings can thrive. This I wish for you. Stay open forever. So open it hurts, and then open up some more until the day you die, world without end. Amen.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.